Okay, I think we're good.
Oh,
we're live.
Counter.
Woo. I think. Wow. Okay, buddy. I think we're live. Someone in the chat could just verify that. We do. I mean, I feel like all these start with that same thing. Like, someone please tell me, because I have no idea. So if we are, we're just gonna move on as if we are. I'm Greg. Thanks for joining me today. We are here with a panel of three very, very special guests. I guess STC Superfans. I don't know what you want to call them, what the category is this week, but I'm really excited to break everything down with you guys. We have two people who I know pretty well, and then Joe, who I don't know Joe all that well. Joe is a big fan of.
I just wandered in here.
We love Joe. We love you. I'm going to let you introduce
Joe won a contest.
And then we'll get but yeah. Cool. So
yeah, I'm Joe. I live in Nashville right now, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I watch way too much Survivor, so that's probably why I'm here. But yeah, I think the season has been awesome, so I'm really excited to be here and talk about it. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, and I went to Penn State.
We don't need to talk about it. So, well, I mean, it's good to have some Big Ten representation. Yes. And I guess you guys don't have much to say for the past couple of years. So, especially last year. Last year's game was a good one, wasn't it? Anyways, moving on. One of you two, Hannah, Ryan.
Ladies first.
All right. Hi, my name's Hannah. I met Greg last year at Survival Challenge in the middle of Illinois. We played a game that we never actually joined forces during the Survival Challenge, right?
No, we never did.
Never.
We met at the Porta Potty one day, and we were like, "Oh, it's the Porta Potty Alliance." That was our thing.
Oh, yep.
And then nothing happened.
Yep. So, so that's where I met Greg playing Survivor, and the first time I met Greg, he was like, "Oh yeah, you might know me. I'm the host of a Survivor Challenge."
Hold up.
And I was like, I have no idea what he's saying, but apparently he's really cool. So
that's very on brand for Greg.
I never said such a thing. Anyway.
Big target on Greg. Long story short, we didn't get to.
You might know me. Wow.
No, seriously, that's how. Sorry, Greg. You said I can make fun of you.
I did, but that's just a lie. That's not even a joke. It's a lie. But anyways,
I feel like I remember that conversation actually.
Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, it happened. It was there. Anyways. So I'm from Dayton, Ohio. So I'm close to Columbus.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, Ryan.
Well, spoiler, that's my name. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm also from Nashville. Well, not from Nashville. I moved here a couple months ago. So yeah, I could. Whatever. I also met Greg last year at the Survival Challenge where we hit off, and he hated me ever since. So here I am.
God, you know what? I look back on that day, I'm like, wow. I literally met Ryan. He watched STC, and then I stayed at his house on the way to Survival.
Yeah, I think so. Austin recommended STC. So I binged Survivor Maryland. Like 2 summers ago now. And he's like, "Oh, you should check out this new one starting. It's this, they're doing it at Ohio State," and watched it, loved it, and messaged Greg about it, and then we became friends after that. So here I am.
Yeah. So cool. So I'm glad to have you guys here.
Repping my STC shirt. Allie was robbed from season 1.
So I need you to clarify something. Is that Allie from last season or Allison from this season? I need to know.
Well, you said this. Allison is this season. Allie, like the OG Allie. That's last year. Come on, Greg.
I'm sure she would love to know you're wearing.
Also, Allison was not robbed, so she robbed herself.
She robbed herself.
Yes.
Cool. So then I think that's a good starting point here. Obviously, tonight's episode is a little bit wild because what should have been, I mean, not exactly an expected, like there's an alliance of 4 and then there's Allison, right? But Allison has an idol. You're like, okay, one of the 4 is going home. That's not what happened. So let's talk about general reactions to the episode. Anyone can start. I don't care what order you go, but go for it.
My jaw dropped when she did not play that idol. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is the last chance to use it. And I just can't stop thinking about it, that she did not play that idol. So I've been thinking, okay, this was like, she had never watched Survivor before, right?
Right.
Like,
Never.
this was like so like major props to Allison for making it to Final 5 and, you know, doing awesome. Girl, you play your idol.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I get the argument of I don't want to draw attention to myself. But
it's Final 5.
It's Final 5 going to Final 4. I mean, I don't think there's any, like, you can also, there's like 15 days left of the game, I think, something like that. So it's like, you could easily play the idol, draw attention to yourself, and just kind of work your way back into the fold. And also, too, she could just be like, hey, like, I didn't find it, you know, Greg found it or gave it to me or whatever. Like, we got together and kind of blame that also on him, even if it wasn't 100% true. Where I think definitely like a maybe Survivor movie I could see why she did that. I would hope that any other person who's like a really deep fan of the show and like, you know, just knows like you don't take risks that late in the game like that.
Yeah, and especially seeing Greg do what he did 2 episodes ago, which I still can't get over that either. You would think that she would play it. And I think even like when she had both advantages, she had said something like, oh, I might not even need to play either of these. So I remember thinking, okay, that's a little like, you have an easy path to the Final 4 with these 2 advantages. Just use them back to back. Like, I don't even think anyone would have been mad. I mean, when she used her invisibility thing, they were like, okay, we kind of expected that. Like, you maybe could have waited 1 more. But I mean, I don't think, you know, I mean, Stephanie would have gone, and I didn't realize this, but Alex had voted with her. So Stephanie would have been out. She would have had an ally in Alex. Like, I think she would have been set up pretty well. So bummer.
And I think let's talk about, you referenced the Greg vote especially. So when Greg gets voted out, Allison's very clearly the only person who votes in the other direction with Greg. So that happens. And then she almost gets her trust, like people buy her trust back. The next vote being Ryan, which they had been talking about for much of the post-merge anyway, was getting Greg and Ryan. So what do you think was kind of going through her mind then when Ryan goes? Does she instantly go like, okay, like, you're right, maybe I don't need the idol. They totally trust me 100%. Forget about the Greg thing. Like, what's going through her mind?
Yeah, it was kind of like a theme of this entire season, I feel like people are really quick to forgive, and like kind of just like, it's almost like the whole, I hate using the word like voting block. That's kind of what it's been. We're just like, it's like every round is kind of like a soft-ish reset. Obviously, like relationships, you know, from prior rounds was kind of in play, but I mean, even like, I think the biggest one I come to mind is like the Mitch vote where Autumn had to play her idol, because it was like a 4 or 5 to 1 vote where she plays her idol and gets saved. But I mean, she goes in the merge, and really, I mean, like, if that were me, those 4 or 5 that like basically voted me out of the game, they're dead to me. Like, I do everything I can to work with another group of people, and maybe she just didn't get the vibe from other people that she was, you know, maybe could have flipped or whatever. But I think just that's kind of happened a couple times where I feel like, I mean, it was just nice. They're all like really great people and kind of get over things quickly. But yeah, that's kind of like interesting, like theme throughout. I feel like there might be like moves or blindsides. I feel like people are like been really understanding of them. Like, for another example too, where like, you know, Stephanie kind of keeps getting that rogue vote every round. Like, oh, we just go with the 1 just in case. And she's like, oh, I get it. I get why you did that. I'm like, maybe I would say that, but I wouldn't, you know, whatever. It's like forgive and forget. Or if not, don't forgive and forget or whatever. But I don't know. I guess they're just nicer than I am.
Yeah. So Autumn is like the queen of comfort. Like, she makes everyone feel so comfortable. Am I right? Like everybody just like is so like Allison was so like, she so believed that Autumn was voting out Stephanie, right? Like, she was like, okay. Also, does no one know that they're roommates?
No one knows.
No one knows that they live together.
That's crazy.
To this point in time, it's still no.
Do they just like? So usually when people meet, are they usually meeting like in dorms or just in like general public places? Or is it like a rule, or is it just kind of happen that way?
No, I mean, there is no rule revolving around it. I think whenever they went home together, they walked in the same direction, but kind of split off and just walked in a circle, or whatever they did, they strategically made it so that they would not be seen walking into the same house. They would never have people over because they'd be like, oh, I live in like my sorority house. I think one of them, I don't remember which one of them had said, I live in my sorority house, and they like having Survivor meetings there would be weird. So they just didn't have any people over. So they would always go meet the other person, or everyone's on campus all day. And so they live off campus, and meeting with people off campus would be inconvenient. So why not just do it while you're on campus? So yeah, no one really knew, because they really didn't ever find themselves in a situation where they could be caught.
Yeah, Autumn is playing on a whole nother level. I am so impressed by her. She is killing it. She is awesome. And just like watching her interact with everybody is amazing. But just like talking to Allison, just like, oh, yep, it's Stephanie. And like, that's how you play Survivor. You make people feel comfortable so they don't play their idol.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And sorry, I have so many thoughts. But Autumn and Stephanie coming up with a plan to tell Jake that Stephanie's going to take him to final 2. And Autumn says, oh, Stephanie just told me final 3. Oh my goodness. Like, and that is making him feel so comfortable to go with them. And when Jake has the conversation with Allison, right? Jake says, so what's our future? And she goes, oh, I just don't want to think that far ahead. Like, okay, I'm not in your plan, so bye.
Yeah. Right. That was it. Because Jake said that he would have voted for Steph, right? If Allison would have just told him that sweet little lie, right? Like, was that true?
So that's another thing. I think Jake kind of elaborates this in a confessional. He says, I would have considered it at least. I don't know if that's the way he would have gone. And I guess hindsight's 20/20 on that. I don't think he would have. I think he still would have gone with Stephanie and Autumn at the time. But at that point, it was just confirmation of like, don't even consider it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and I think that, on that point, I think it's worth saying, if you're Allison in that situation and she goes all the way to 3 in that like long-term discussion, she says, and then it would be me, you, and Alex to Jake. And then she's like, I haven't thought any further than that. Well, there's really only one step further to think about.
You say, and I'm taking you.
Right. Yeah. Just say it.
So I've been like super debating about what the best move for Jake was between these two groups of girls. What have you guys thought about who he should have gone with and what the best move for Jake was?
Well, I think us being kind of like on the all-knowing side, obviously you don't go to Final 4 with another pair. I mean, if he thinks he's got Alex, like if he knew that Steph and Autumn were so close, you don't go in there like hoping or looking forward to like a 2-2 tie. So like and it's like, that Allison, like, she's at least in your 3. And I think even though I guess you just wanted like every person in that Final 4 with him to like promise him the Final 2. Right. But if you go in there thinking, okay, I've got my Alex like a for sure Final 2. Autumn and Steph are kind of saying 2 with me. Allison maybe didn't commit, but like I know in my mind that Allison's not going to want to go forward with the remainder of Steph and Autumn. So like by default, you just break up that pair, have them go at it at 4, and then I guess get down to Final 3 and maybe try to lock in something by or just go down Allison at 4 if possible. Then that way your Final 2s are covered. But yeah, and I think, like I said, us knowing the relationship between Steph and Autumn better, I think he made the wrong move. But in his mind, I get why he's saying, well, these 3 promised Final 2, she didn't, so that makes sense to vote her out too.
And I think that's worth, because he does right now, from the outside looking in, have the final due deal with everybody in the Final 4 now, right? You've seen it with Alex, you've seen it with Autumn. The one with Autumn is pretty, I mean, it's been kind of established for a while now. The Alex one more recently, and then the Steph one literally this episode too. I think he really is set up pretty well from the outside looking in, but is it guaranteed to be a 2-2 tie? Like, I don't really know. What happens if he does go with Allison and Alex? How is that different, I guess? Because you've seen them grow really, really close together too.
Right.
I guess it's one of these where like, if he's looking more at the 2, with how to get to 3 or how to get to 2. Because I think if you vote out Steph and take Allison to 4, Jake is like guaranteed Final 3, but has maybe an iffier shot at Final 2. But if you take like what he did and take Allison out, go to Final 4 with Steph and Autumn still together, if you can win out that Final 4 and you get to 3, then I think he's golden to get to Final 2. But that Final 4 round is a trickier one for him.
That's a fair.
Right. And he doesn't know how close Steph and Autumn are, so he probably thinks you know, if they're like a guaranteed final 2 out of everyone, he's, you know, he doesn't know that. So if he goes that direction, you know, he might think he have a better shot with them. But I guess we'll see what happens with that in the future.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, ideally, like, in his situation, he wants to get people who are not going to take each other to the end. So it's like, get rid of one of the partners. He got rid of Allison. So next up, get rid of Steph or Autumn, so that he's in the final 3 with 2 people who will want to take him to the end. But that's easier said than done, right? Like, he's got to put in the work to make this happen and whatnot. So man, I've just been wrestling with, like, what's the best move?
I think another point too, if Jake's worried about who's going to take him to final 2, I mean, whether or not this is true or not, I think the vibe of that final 5 was that of those 5, Stephanie's probably the one who's least likely to win, therefore maybe the most likely to be brought to final 2. So if he cuts her out, then he has a better shot of being brought to the end, just because the person who they else would want to bring is now out of the game. I think there's a lot more pros to voting out Stephanie's situation than voting out Allison. But I mean, to say that Jake's, you know, screwed himself, I don't know. But, you know, I think he's, like I said, I think he's made final 4 trickier. But if he can make it to 3, I think he's got it from there to be final 2.
Jake Miller. I am such a big fan of him. Like, I just need him to make it to the end. When he won that immunity challenge, oh my gosh, I was so excited. You know, like, not waving the white flag no more. You know,
that was such a good line.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, speaking of that, he did dominate that puzzle, but that stair thing was totally meant for, like, the tallest person to win. That was, I mean, like, you see, like, Jake at, like, what, like 6'2", probably, of, like, these other, like, 4 girls. I'm like, I wonder who's gonna be able to, like, balance down those stairs and climb up them the fastest without falling.
Well, Stephanie was in the lead or something.
She did that lead for a while.
She dropped the marble. Oh my gosh, I was on the edge of my seat.
And at one point, Autumn, at the point where you could use 2 hands, she kept only using 1, and I was like, "Why isn't she using 2? Like, somebody tell her." But she was.
Well, because the rule was you had to use 2 on the way down and, like, 1 going up. Is that what it was, Greg?
No, you didn't have to. It was, you had to use 1 on the way up and then.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I know, I'm like, why would you have to use 2 going down? Like, it really gave any, like, major advantage or disadvantage there. So that makes sense.
I think the reason we did it was like, oh, you had to grab a poker chip at the bottom, so that was in your other hand. So then with the 1, you would just walk up on the way up. I will say with the challenge specifically, Steph drops at the end, and she had a pretty significant lead. And I think, for what it's worth, had she not dropped on the way up with her 4th or 5th chip or whatever, I think she really gives Jake a run for her money there, or for his money there. And I think if that happens, let's run through this scenario. If Steph, no, wait, I want to clear something up also before, because I'm on the subject and it's not really that. I had some typos in the challenge, by the way, for those of you watching. Jake did get all of the puzzles correct. I put something in the text that said make 3 into 9, where I meant to say 3 into 6. That's what the puzzle actually said. So Jake did get it correct. And the first one also said something about make the equation still true. The word still was added in by me when I was editing. It really was just move 1 stick to make it true. So please don't blow up on me for giving it to Jake. Whatever.
Wait, that would mean that wasn't a live recording at the challenge? You do voiceovers?
Right. We had some like virtual reality text that just popped up. Live action. So, but anyway, so where I want to go with this is, let's say Stephanie wins the challenge. What happens? Does Allison play the idol? Think about that.
I think she does. I mean, I think between I guess that at that point, Alex and Jake are probably telling her, let's vote out Autumn, and then obviously Autumn and Stephanie are still voting for Allison. So I feel like Allison maybe hence thinking that maybe Steph and Autumn are closer. She's like, well, that's going to be 2 votes for me for sure. I feel like she would be less willing to risk it if Autumn was the vote versus if it just being like a slam dunk against Stephanie, like it was told her to be.
Yeah, possible. I mean, but she also had brought up Autumn's name too, so maybe she would have fell into that same trap of like, well, everyone's telling me, you know, it's Autumn, so okay, Steph has immunity, that sucks, but maybe I don't play it again in that alternate reality, and she still goes home, which would be crazy. But
Is there a world where the girls vote out Jake?
I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
No,
probably not.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting because when we look back to season 1 of STC, for those of you, Hannah, you've seen, right? I know the other two.
No, I watched a couple episodes and then I didn't finish it.
No, it's okay. I'm not offended. So let's.
Allie won, is what I know.
From that season at Final Five, the same kind of situation where there's really like 2 pairs, but these ones in season 1 were a lot more distinct. You had Kelsey and Allie, and then you had Muriel and Jackson, and then Vinny in the middle. And they voted out Vinny, right? And Vinny gets like idled out for what it's worth. But in that situation, the swing vote got voted out. And that was a possibility. But at no point do I think either of the pairs here consider voting out Jake. You're right. I really don't think there's a scenario there.
Well, wait, isn't
social
one of the
game
pairs? I thought Alex and Jake were kind of the pair. So I mean, like, I don't think Alex and Allison that become the pair were like, oh, hey, let's go 2 girls, and vote out Jake. I think because Alex was close up to Jake, that's why that didn't happen.
This was an interesting dynamic to kind of try to depict on screen. I think Autumn and Stephanie and Jake came from this perspective of not all knowing, but they knew the dynamic pretty clearly, where they knew it was 2-2 and Jake in the middle, and Jake knew he was in the middle. Autumn and Stephanie both knew he was in the middle. Allison and Alex were both under the impression that there was no pair, right, on the other side. It was just Alex even thought that it was going to be 4-1 against Stephanie, right? And so did Allison. So that thought of it being, I guess, Alex and Allison not recognizing that it's a pair, and Jake, I think that made this a little bit different, and that's why they never considered voting out Jake, because it wasn't Jake in the middle. It was Jake is with us, period.
Right. Because he's amazing at Survivor and wonderful in every way.
So, yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. But, yeah, I don't know. That challenge was very pivotal. And even the person who won wasn't someone who was a target. But I think if someone else does, I think the result is just so bizarre. Because if Stephanie wins it, Allison plays the idol, I think Autumn goes home. And that would be a very bizarre result. Or we might have no votes. I don't know. I really don't know. But anyways, moving on.
You think if Autumn would have found the idol that was so obviously not hidden well, do you think if she would have played her idol, then would have Allison just played hers just to play it? Do you think that would have like spooked her into it? or do you think she still would have just been like, well, I'm still safe, the target's Steph, Autumn playing her idol wouldn't have made a difference?
I remember being there in real time and thinking how, I guess, calm and collected Allison was being in person. And I walked into that tribal council knowing what she was doing. And I was shocked because of how comfortable she was with an idol in her pocket. I don't know if there's any scenario that really would have driven her to playing it, even at tribal, unless it was Steph plays an idol. I think that's the only scenario that really would have put her in that direction. And that's because she really did come in with this utter confidence that they were with her. And I can't blame her. But I don't think Autumn playing an idol would have affected her at all. Maybe that's just me though. I don't know.
I have some more thoughts about this not playing the idol thing. So like, I feel like Allison said, back when Greg was still in the game, I remember her saying, like, Greg is my shield. I'm just going to be hidden in the back, under the radar, let him make all the moves. And I remember hearing that and thinking like, okay, awesome. Greg gets out before you, but you have to be visible and make the moves for the jury to like want to give you the win at the end, right? You can't, I don't know. It's really hard to be under the radar the whole time and then make it to the end and be like, oh, look at all the things I did. And the jury's going to be like, really? So I I don't super love the under the radar game, especially when, okay, so she has the idol and you're at Final Five. It's like, you have to play it, you have to show that like, I found this and I did this. And, the jury wants a show, right? And when me and Greg played Survival Challenge, in the final 5 of Survival Challenge, there was a guy who had an idol and he didn't play the idol and he went home, just like what happened with Allison. And he was trying to hold on to it.
My smile can't be bigger right now.
Right. And fun fact, I would have been voted out if he did play it. So I'm fine with it. He wanted to hold on to the idol so that he would get to final 2 and so that he could say, look what I had, and I didn't have to play because I was, so good at the game, right? And jokes on him, he got voted out. And I also was thinking of Wendell Holland, Survivor Ghost Island. His last name Holland, right? Yeah. He has an idol at Final 5. He wins immunity, so he doesn't have to play it, but he does not have to play it for Laurel because she's not getting voted out, but he still plays it to, win her favor and put on a show. You gotta, do some big moves for the jury, the big moves thing. But, you got to put on the show to show that you're playing. So anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think Ryan said it before about how Allison mentioned she didn't want to put this big target on her for making a big move. Basically when Autumn did it before, he was saying, I mean, obviously that her target got bigger. She was supposed to go home. But the other thing too, and I forgot this until I think this episode, I forgot that Allison hadn't really seen the show before. So it kind of makes sense, some of the things that she did just because of that alone. She, not, just trusting everyone and maybe not playing the idol, other moves maybe that she made kind of reflected back on that. So I kind of had forgotten that from before. Mm-hmm. So it kind of made a little bit more sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see if somone who had played doing that probably makes, or knew the show, I think that would make, they would do that.
Right.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think Allison's was definitely 100% the, I don't want to have that target on my back, or our buddy Justin, I think, was 99%. I want to be that ego, and at the final 2, be here's what I got. And then, yeah.
I think it's also,
different motive, same result.
Yeah.
Basically, long story short, player damn idol.
It's also worth noting, I think, that if you look at the jury's reaction when Allison doesn't play it, they all know she has an idol at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Told them this. And so I think it is there is some merit to the point where I think kind of like Justin did in our game, where at the end, if she makes it there, I think the jury is sold on that, right?
Right.
She had look at her. That was balls of steel. She did not play that idol, and she didn't need it, and she knew that she didn't need it because of her social game. And I think I understand that merit, but that's not where she was thinking. I don't think that's why she didn't play it. It was purely just comfort. She was felt good.
I think you could easily too, but maybe not as easily, but you could still make the argument at the end, hey, I played my idol at 5, so I'm not a dumbass. So I'm I didn't need to. I think the same, the merit of not needing to play the idol is still there, even having technically played it. I mean, it's I think I guess that's more just different experiences with the game. I had different opinions, but
that's what Autumn did when her tribe was down to 5 before the merge, right? She played the idol. And I think she thought, and she didn't even think she was going home. She was unsure. She played it.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
I think another really interesting thing to kind of break down here. So she gets this idol with Greg, right? So it's this joint idol. They had 2 powers per se, whatever you want to call them, at final 7. This is kind of going off the rails from the previous discussion. So if you guys had any final thoughts from the whole idol situation at 5, we can settle that here. But I want to talk about what happens if Greg makes it through 7 and they go into 6 with an idol and an advantage, but with that 4 that we were talking. So say Ryan goes at 7, right?
Well, let me get that really great montage of Greg and how great he is at Survivor.
Can I just say,
I liked that
scene.
I liked that.
I might have had
saying it publicly. I liked it.
I might have had a tear as What You Say is playing, as he's talking about how great this game is and how much he loves Survivor, and it's What You Say, and I'm like, God.
I really wish I could have watched that episode with Anders just to kind of see his live reaction to that.
Did he tweet about it? I'm surprised if he did.
Oh God!
I don't know if he's caught up or not, but no, I just remember him having a lot of Greg thoughts on it. They'll recap.
You would throw up. You would throw up.
Okay, we need to talk about Greg not playing an idol or an advantage when he knows he has votes coming for him.
I don't get it.
I think
okay.
I was going to say, I think that really sets the trajectory for the rest of the votes, right? So, like, at 7, none of the 4 are in trouble. They're really the decision makers here.
For our...
So, Autumn, Stephanie, Jake, and Alex.
Okay, thank you.
Right, yeah. I mean, really, at that point in time, Greg thinks it's the 3 are the swing, and Ryan and Stephanie are 1, him and Allison are 1, the other 3 are in the middle, right? So, with that said, though, Greg knows votes are coming his way. We can break down what happens if he does keep both of them going into final 6 if he makes it. But yeah, let's walk through that. What goes through Greg's mind at 7? Because I think if Greg makes it through to 6, the game is very different with 2 powers in his hand. But if he plays it, does he just go next? Does Allison just go next? And then the same 3 people go back to back to back? I don't know. So let's break down what happened at 7 and then what would have happened as a result of 7 maybe changing.
Well, first off, Greg and Ryan should not have been going against each other. They should have been joining forces, in my opinion. I think if you know you're going for each other, just like turn the game on its head and go for someone else. So, because they were like so close, and then they decided like, oh, guess it's over. The honeymoon's over. Time to go against each other. So, I don't know. I think they should have avoided that whole thing. And then you were saying, what if he survives the vote? Is that what you said?
Let's say Ryan goes at 7. Do you think this episode has a different result where it's either Greg or Allison go, or is it someone else? Let's walk through what do you think would happen at 6 if Greg gets through?
Well, I think in that scenario, having him just do that, I think they'd have to get, well, crap, what else has he got up his sleeve? I think, if they were smart at that point, they would split 2-2-2, and, if Greg plays something else, they vote up, then Allison's the vote. If he doesn't play anything else, then they vote for him. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do, but to say they would do the same, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or they both could play their advantages at that point and then both be safe and knock someone else out and then see what happens after that. But
I do.
Yeah,
I think there would have been too much game left to play to kind of do too much of the reset. Like, okay, you made a big move there, had played this thing, but now let's approach this next round as something completely different. I think they would still be like, okay, we wanted to vote him out this time, so we didn't get the chance to, so let's try this time. And I think once you're that big of a target, I think it's really hard for the rest of the group to just completely target someone else. And it's like a different player, yeah, but when it's a Greg player who's involved in a lot of decision and strategy that's trying to drive in the game, I don't think someone like that could come back from that kind of play and just kind of weave his way back in. Where someone like Alex played a power there, I think she could, hey, as a one-off, I'm kind of melding back up with the group. But I don't think Greg could as easily bounce back and just be one of the guys again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although Autumn did say that had he told her, she would have told him to play it. So
right. She wanted to play with him.
Yeah, so how far would she have wanted to take him? I mean, at that point, maybe one more round and go for Allison first or something, but that was kind of interesting.
Greg wouldn't have gone for Allison.
Right. So I don't know what Autumn's plan was had Greg stayed.
I don't know why Autumn always kept going back to trusting or wanting to work with Greg.
Apparently everyone loves Greg. Everyone loves Greg.
It's true, and it's so funny because you heard it. I mean, this is rewinding a couple episodes here, but even from Kelly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Brooke, after being blindsided on the Kelly vote, still goes back to Ryan and Greg. It's just he's a magnet at that point where everyone just trusts him, and he is a good player, and people know that, and they want to play with him. I think that, Autumn's situation might have been a little bit different because it was a little bit more desperation where if I just go against them in resentment, I'm going to be the target of the other side.
She's so great.
Forces with them, maybe they'll kind of forget about me.
Was there a vibe at all? I think imagine Greg's a pretty big super fan of Survivor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He knows the show pretty well.
Okay. I mean, like, if you had to like rank that like final, say even just like rank the merge, and would he be toward the top of like the Survivor fandom knowledge, do you think?
I'd say out of that 9 that made it, I would say him, I would say Jake, Kelly, and those are probably the top 3.
Well, because the reason I bring it up is because I mean, if someone like that is kind of, again, like driving the game, there's almost some comfort in having someone around like him, like, well, I'll just have Greg do the heavy lifting here, pin a bigger target on his back. So I mean, that could be one reason why Autumn was kind of always going back to him. We're like, well, he knows what he's doing. So I think if he's telling me the truth, what he's probably planning is probably going to be something that works out just based on his track record. So I can maybe like see that argument being made where better be on the successful guy's side than trying to take him out. But yeah, I think there's a point there where like this is so many times like you lie to me or vote against me, and like you gotta like dump them at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting to kind of think about, I guess, Greg being the big shield that he was for Allison, and I guess like to that same note, seeing Ryan and Greg go against each other where they were these 2 big threats. I think going back to kind of what Hannah was saying, Greg and Ryan kind of turn against each other just because of this general all-knowing thing where it's like, oh, a threat needs to be taken out at 7. Is that something that comes as a result of just watching Survivor? I don't know, because when we watch the show, aren't there like we think 7's a big vote, we think 5's a big vote, like like do you think that Greg, having been a fan of the show, he might have been like, well, it's 7, it's time to stop going after Brooke and Alex and Kelly? Maybe
and same with, and Ryan is a fan too, if I'm remembering. Like,
a little bit, yeah.
I feel like they got to a point where so you just get to a point of like, oh, gotta get him out. He's gonna win if he makes it, and you know what I mean. It's just like you have it ingrained in you of like, oh, I have to get them out because they're the typical gonna win person. When Ryan and Greg need to realize, no, I need him in the game. I need to work with him to get out the other people because they went out, back to back.
Right. Yeah, they definitely should have waited at least 1 or 2 more votes. Absolutely. It was just too soon.
And even then, I think, and with that 4 existing at 7, I wonder whether or not the results even would have changed. I've run through this a lot of times with both myself and other people within STC. I don't know if there's any scenario where that 4 doesn't join forces and the 3 that go at 7, 6, and 5 aren't Greg, Allison, and Ryan. I can't think of a scenario where that doesn't happen because of the other 4, which is interesting because they were part of this big group at 9 and 8 when Kelly and Brooke went, which were 2 relatively predictable votes for what it's worth. I don't know if there was a way out for the other 3. I really don't. Do you guys think that there was anything they could have done to get to 4, for one of them to get to 4, besides obviously Allison playing both?
So when you're saying like, so at 7, instead of Greg going, those 3 managed to like pull something else out that's not a Greg, Ryan, or Allison vote?
Do you think there's any scenario other than, I guess, Greg and Allison playing their? I don't know what the question really is. I need to know whether or not.
I guess they could maybe have tried to push for like let's just finish off Alex because she was part of the Kelly Brooke Alex thing. Maybe try to spin that like. But the thing is, they can't make. I was gonna say like Autumn, but they can't spin like, oh, we gotta take out Autumn because she's a big threat. Ryan or Greg can't say that because they're threats too. So like to say like, let's put out a threat, Autumn, you can't really use that argument whenever you qualify for that too.
Ryan was trying. Ryan, at his vote out, right? He was trying to flip it onto Autumn.
I think in that situation it's different. I think he used it correctly there because he's saying, I already know you're voting me out as a threat. You should look at this other threat too, versus like, I'm not a threat there. Like he's like, I think being like honest about like, I know I'm a threat too, but so is she, is a better argument than like, oh no, she's the threat, I'm not.
Get all the threats out.
Yeah.
I guess he kind of did the same thing with Greg. So he was like, all right, well, it worked with Greg. They voted out Greg over me. So let's try it with Autumn now and see if they'll do the same thing.
Right.
it's just so funny because I just can't think of anything that really would have worked at 7, because I think the other 4 were like, all right, yeah, it's time for Greg or Ryan to go.
I mean, they almost, I guess they could have maybe tried, I mean, because I know just because Autumn liked to work with Greg, I mean, they maybe could have said, hey, let's just go in at this final 4, like all the threats. Like Autumn, if you go to 4 with like Alex, Stephanie, and Jake, you know, you're probably going to be the biggest name of those 4, so you're going to be an easy final 4, which you still might be. But I think that maybe even one way to persuade Autumn, even like, you know, bring Autumn and Steph and hey, let's vote out, again, either Alice because she's just the next one in line, or maybe even Jake because he's kind of really with nobody tightly at that point. So like, let's kind of just get rid of the, you know, the wild card in him.
Yeah. Speaking of Greg, I brought my hater blockers. And I brought my snacks.
Yes.
Greg, continue.
Can I just say this jury? All right. So on that note, this is getting away from the strategy. This jury was insane. I loved it. So to start it off,
they are living.
Well, the best juries always start off with like the first juror being like a really great person. So that was that was
she was great.
Like she set the tone for an amazing jury.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember what the word meant. If anyone in the chat, maybe who like from crew, could tell me what the word meant on Kelly's poster. It was like Imaka or something, and it was in the language that the tribe names were in, and it said something about me, and I don't remember what it said.
You were the emoji girl, right?
The emoji girl, yeah. And I remember seeing that, and I'm like, okay, this is odd. And then everything after that just became like the jury was a show. They brought snacks. Like Greg started bringing hummus and the hater blockers, and then
wait, Greg, can I have dessert?
Yeah, please.
I think Greg did that too, right?
Yes. Well, they told me, they're like, before you go get the votes, like tell us we can have dessert, just because they wanted to rub it in. It was just so fun, and I will say, like, it gets better for season 3 and season 4 and 5. Like, I know.
Greg, do you not let them like eat during the game at all? Like they just have to like forgo their meal plan while they're playing Survivor. That way, that food thing is such a critical part of the jury.
I mean, well, let's be honest. Greg brought food to a tribal council before he was voted out. Do you remember that? The one when he was immune at 8. He brought.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Crackers or something. I don't know. But yeah, like it was just. I don't know why season 1 was just very like I don't know why they didn't want to have fun with it, but yeah. 2, they had a blast with just bringing food. It was great. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, with the jury too, I think it's worth also mentioning the people who are on the jury now. We have Kelly, we have Brooke, we now have Ryan and Greg, and now we have Allison. I guess this is kind of looking forward now, but who are each of them rooting for in this 4?
Ooh, I took notes on this.
I have a question.
Let's see.
So I feel like several people have said that the jury would not vote for Stephanie. Have people been saying that? Like, everybody wants to go to the end with Stephanie or something.
So yeah, and I'll comment on that.
Well, that's like the final 5. They believe that. I mean, like I said earlier, I don't know if it's whether or not that's true. Like, but like, you know, if they believe it, they're going to use it to dictate their own decisions in the game. I think.
Right. Do you have any?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you have any insight on that? Like why they thought that, or did I miss something?
I think it all stems from the beginning of the jury being Kelly and Brooke, right?
Okay.
Kelly and Brooke didn't like Stephanie.
Right.
From a game perspective, like both of them were always against her, and as was Alex, right? But Alex ends up getting roped into this alliance with her, so it's kind of water under the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly and Brooke being there and being anti-Stephanie is one thing, right? So she already loses 2 votes there. Then you go to Greg.
Wow.
Huh.
Like really, like they were just like really not having it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that just, it stems from Kelly being the kingpin of that alliance and just being like very, like our leadership styles just don't mix. She says that in episode 1 about Stephanie.
Yeah.
And then I think with Greg, during Greg's vote, he made the assumption that it was him and Allison, Ryan and Stephanie, and then the 3 in the middle. So I think at that point he knows like Stephanie's not with me. So I think that's also kind of going into the jury like, okay, I'm not a Steph fan because she's not a fan of me. And he even says that in his vote out confessional where he's like, well, Steph probably hates me. He says that in his final words. And then Ryan, I think, is probably one of the ones who's worked closely with her. I don't think he's anti-Stephanie in the slightest.
Mhm.
But then Allison, I think, is very much in the same tree with Greg, where it's just it was Ryan and Stephanie, and then it was us.
Right. Right.
Yeah. The only person I even have possibly even considering voting for Steph is Nick on my list. Like, I don't think she has a shot, honestly.
Well, Nick can't vote, Joe. So that'd be
On the jury.
Well, or, I'm sorry, not Nick.
you mean Ryan.
Ryan, sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was going to say
Nick.
sorry,
So
I
no,
love
you probably won't prefer.
I loved
Yeah.
the downfall of Nick. Nick's downfall was just
I watched that
beautiful.
today. That tribal. Oh my gosh, so good.
Oh man, I loved it. Sorry, Nick.
and
You're
that's-
great, but
And like that set the tone for the merge too, right? Like the only reason any of this was possible because of that vote. So I mean, it had this whole like predetermined 6. What happens if Nick makes the merge? I don't know. I don't even want to break that down. We don't have time. It's just like that was it kind of set the tone to where now it's Ryan and Greg are the kingpins, and then eventually that downfall happens as a result.
Stephanie is playing such a good game. Like speaking of the Nick vote, how she flipped that vote with, got the girls in. I just feel like Stephanie is playing so well, and it just sucks hearing like, oh, she won't get any votes at the end. It's like, I hope that she would be able to argue her, like she's doing so well, and what she's doing with Autumn and everything is, I just like strong female players. I love it. And I just hate like, oh, no one will vote for her.
I mean, and I will always champion the person who's not making like big moves to like stay in the game. I will always say the person who can socially maneuver their way from beginning to end, whether that be by making showy tribal councils or not, that's the person that I'm always going to be inclined to vote for. So I mean, to say that, I mean, of the final 4, I mean, I think they all have cases to win. Whether the jury is going to want to hear that out, especially in Steph's case, I don't really know. But I mean, just from watching the show, I certainly wouldn't be like, oh yeah, Stephanie doesn't deserve to win or she can't win. I mean, based on knowing the jury and the players, like maybe that might be the case, but I don't think it's because of what she's actually done. It's just so much of like that perception of we haven't, seen her move, so therefore she's not making moves. Like, I mean, I think the biggest move you can make is just like constantly being in the know and like being able to like move throughout the people in the game. If you can do that, it's not like a move, but you're constantly on the move, where I think that's just something that should be noted to anybody that makes it that far and doesn't really get the credit they deserve to be.
And it's like, is she making those personal connections with people that you need to have on the jury to get their votes, right? I feel like we've seen Jake is making tons of these connections. Sorry, I'm going back to Jake because I love him so much. But he just like his one-on-one conversations are just so great. And anywho, so like, is Stephanie making those?
I think that might be
It's
not. I don't want to say
with everyone.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. So I'm not like anti-Stephanie, but I do have her at the bottom of my list of like once we get to who we think would win. I mean, if you think about it, she didn't have a connection with Kelly or Brooke, so that's 2 votes right there. And then she really only reached out to Allison this last week. So that's 3 people right there that she probably most likely won't get. You only need 4 in this jury. It's only a 7-person jury. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is just like, I think her road is the toughest of the 4 to win. So like she has been in sort of like the right place at the right time with some of the alliances she's had, but I feel like, her social game has been good, but I feel like the other 3 have been a little bit better. And then just looking at the jury specifically, I think she has a really tough road ahead of her if she makes the final 2.
And
I think definitely looking at the jury, she's got. I don't know if I can see her winning against any of those final 2. Again, not because like she's a bad player. I just think that jury is already leaning toward any of the other 3 over her, unless like someone really just somehow like burns like the last 2 votes here, and then like that kind of somehow rubs the jury wrong. I mean, I could almost picture a scenario where maybe Jake does or behaves in a way that's kind of almost like you're too cocky or too boastful, where like maybe that some sort of like big final 4-3. That could potentially maybe sway some votes one way or the other. But I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see Stephanie winning, but I don't think it's because she didn't play a good game. It's just like she didn't play the game that the jury wanted to see, which I guess one could argue that that's then playing a bad game if you can't like win over the jury. But I just think they're already in favor of other people because they've been like more visually onto their game so far.
Even Alex?
I think Alex will win.
I mean, you think, what about Alex? You think like me,
Like if it's
she
Alex versus Stephanie? Would that even happen?
Honestly, I mean, if you look at the jury, so Alex has Brooke and Kelly's votes on lock. I feel like Allison is probably leaning her too. I would imagine, just because she didn't really have anything with Steph or Autumn. You know, between Jake and Alex, I think she was closer to Alex. That's like 3 votes. Alex needs to swing any other person who's on the fence to potentially win the game. So I could see a scenario where, you know, even though she wasn't really a big of a player until like the merge hit, I think the way the jury's forming up, and depending on how these next 2 votes go, she could be the winner here, even against someone like Jake, who's kind of, or like honestly, I could even imagine. Oh, never mind. I think she'd have a tough time beating Autumn, but I think I could see her potentially beating Jake just based on the jury favorite.
Wow.
Sorry, Hannah.
Wow.
Hannah does not like that.
Read 'em and weep, baby. Oh my gosh, if we got an Autumn and Jake final 2,
that would be the most competitive for sure.
I would die.
I feel like it would be a 4-3 vote, easy.
The thing is, neither of those 2 would take the other. Like, there's no situation where Autumn takes Jake over Alex or Steph, or Jake takes Autumn over Alex or Steph, I think.
No.
That's exactly what
that would be for us.
They're too good. They know better.
Yeah.
They're too good.
Yep.
But I can dream.
And I think I want to kind of backtrack, and I know like Stephanie's in the chat now, and Steph knows this very well. I think I've told her after the game, like, her game is very much worth praise. I think Steph has received more votes than anyone else in the game. And I think I said this to Hannah when she was playing Survival Challenge. I said, if you somehow get blown up to a point where everyone just keeps voting you and you survive, that's to be credited. I don't care if it's you're a scapegoat or whatever. For some reason, people keep writing your name down and you're not going home. And I think she has the more votes than really anyone. It's not even close. I think she might have more votes than anyone in the history of STC. Someone can correct me on that, but at least at the time I knew she did. And I think for what it's worth, the only thing that she would be overshadowed by, I think, would be maybe Autumn, because Autumn and her have played the game together. She has a very distinct game from the other 2.
And if she used that at Final Tribal and was like, hey, I had this like secret friendship with Autumn this whole time, and you know, she uses that in her final speech, and like I really used that to my advantage, and we made moves behind the scenes that you guys didn't see and know, like that could push her over the edge for sure in a good way.
I'm so impressed by Stephanie. I just major props to her.
Yeah, I mean, she's played a great game, and I think really everyone in the Final 4 has played a very different game, which is weird to say because they really are like a mixture of different pairs, and they've all been in this very coherent alliance of 7. But I think they each had such a diverse path there. And I think maybe now is a good time to kind of transition into that. We have 4 players here.
Did we answer your jury question well enough?
Yeah, I mean, well, no, we kind of did skip over that. I mean, if we want to backtrack a little bit, we talked about.
I just want to make sure I agree with that.
We talked about Stephanie primarily, and Alex too, with her getting Kelly and Brooke, for example. But what do you guys think about, I guess, Jake and Autumn's connections to the jury right now? If let's say it is a Jake and Autumn final 2, what the 5?
Let's see, I think
out of the 5 that are there, and I guess Alex and Stephanie, who do they get?
I feel like Autumn versus Jake. I feel like Autumn would probably pull that one out. I think she gets. I think Greg is I think Greg would vote for Jake. Allison would I guess Allison and Alex would maybe vote for Jake. But also if Jake like betrays Alex, maybe she'll be like, well, maybe I won't vote for you. So I think there's really no one who's like in that jury that would be like Autumn over everybody or Jake over everybody, where I feel like that'd be a really good match because no one's really, even like Kelly or Brooke, they're not like, at least I don't gather that they're like totally pro Autumn or pro Jake in that scenario. Where I think it really comes down to what they kind of say at the final tribal. That'd be the hardest, I think, final 2 to predict where certain votes go. But like my gut would just say that Autumn I think pulls it out.
Mm-hmm.
They
And
both have, like,
with her, I think the Mitch vote, just recovering from that and kind of getting all the way to the end. And I think that'd be probably like, I think Autumn's story would be more appealing to a jury where, like I said, obviously Jake's played extremely well, but I think Autumn kind of having those couple like bigger moves, that's just what a jury is going to be interested in seeing and hearing about. So I think she'd probably win over Jake if it came down to it.
And I will say that I believe that Jake would win over Autumn. I feel like he has that, he could easily have that jury in his pocket, that he's just so charismatic and his going on. But Autumn is so great too. Oh my gosh. But just Jake had those like connections with everybody, and he also has the underdog story. And I
don't think anyone's really like brought up his name. Like maybe
I don't think he really has an underdog story. I mean, like the first couple of votes were kind of rough for him, but I think honestly of those final four, I would argue that Alex and Autumn are probably the most like come from behind winner potential stories from those four. Because I mean, yeah, like Jake had a rough start, but he really hasn't been like close to going home since very early on.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there a swap where he was the only one?
The only one. And I think so. This is something that I think gets elaborated on in the finale intro. Spoiler. So Jake and Autumn have been to the same amount of tribal councils. They're more than anyone else, obviously. Stephanie's been to the least. Alex has been to the second least. And then the other two are tied. I think that at this point they have been to all but two.
Dang.
And now circumstances of those are very different. And I think at this point is a good time to kind of break down Jake versus Autumn in the respect of their pre-merge game. Which one's more impressive to you guys? Because Autumn plays an idol, gets out Mitch when she's the only one who votes for him. Jake gets swapped onto a tribe where he is the only original Urlapiri on a field of Maramiras that all just started making a circular firing squad and shooting each other. Like which to you guys is more impressive?
I think Autumn's.
I would say Autumn.
Yeah. Because it's the autonomy of her own,
Yeah, Jake's situation, I'm not going to say he didn't do anything there, but like I think his was definitely more of that tribe imploding on itself than it was like Jake going in there and breaking up this alliance. I think it was much more of them all just kind of, waiting for 3 or 4 rounds to finally just like vote someone out. And they're like, well, now that we have a chance, like there's a lot going on. I just like, well, we'll just save Jake later. Like finally get out here. We maybe like been talking about getting voted out. Like that's kind of what steamrolled the whole thing. Where like Spencer was like, let's do something kind of bigger here and vote out. I think it was it Berkeley wanted to go after? Anyway, but I don't remember. I think that was less Jake's doing and more just that tribe being a mess. Where I think Autumn, definitely round 1, she did everything right. And then I think she just kind of got like screwed over by Greg and Mitch wanting to kind of flip on the Autumn Reagan deal. And I really don't feel like it was really her fault or like really her doing to like kind of put her on the bottom. I think her and Jake both played from the bottom at certain points pre-merge. But I think, when put in a vacuum, I feel like Autumn did more work to survive or like make correct decisions than what Jake maybe did. So they each had a couple of rough spots, but I think overall, play that same scenario over and over again. Autumn probably does better overall than Jake does in those situations.
Is it worth?
I think Jake's game has really come on super, super strong. Maybe post swap and merge, where Autumn started off much better and kind of been able to integrate herself quickly, really well.
I was just say, I think it's worth pointing out maybe that those first 3 votes, right? So Kaki goes unanimously, and then the next 2 are where Jake kind of flips the switch. That is at the expense of Autumn. I think if we're going to compare the pre-merge games, one does topple the other in that regard, where Jake is the reason why Regan goes home. Jake is the reason why Raphael goes home, or at least he flips it in the other direction. Might not be the reason, but he kind of goes that way. I think that makes it hard to compare too, because for what it's worth, Autumn did get the shorter end of the stick at the expense of Jake in that regard. They're not even comparable in that regard, because I think Jake does kind of take the cake in those first 3 or 4 votes. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was impressive for Jake in the beginning. Someone mentioned that in the chat, and I was thinking about that too. I still kind of can picture that conversation where he just walks in and, you know, spills the beans on that plan, and they swap it. So, you know, that was a great move for him, but I think Autumn's was probably more like not meaningful, but just more impactful to the game. And
well, I think too, I think just with Greg and Mitch, I think they're guys who are kind of like eager to kind of like do something bigger anyway. So maybe Jake was smart to kind of approach them for that. But I think, you know, your average player probably is going to just like stick to the plan, where like Autumn really didn't have as much reason to kind of have to worry, because like, well, I've worked these guys, you know, for weeks now. I think they're going to stick with me. Where Greg and Mitch were like, ooh, that sounds like a, you know, spicier move. Let's do that. I guess could be partially it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, so moving on from that, I guess that, yes, I think that'd be a very fun final two. I think really any of the combination of the four would be a very interesting final two. I think let's break down what we think about the final four then. All four of them. I asked you guys actually to make power rankings here, and you can reference them as we go here. Just kind of where, like, whose story to you out of all of them from start to finish is the most compelling? Which do you think is the more likely to make it to the end and sell the jury? What do you guys think about that four and their stories to get here?
So I think this story, I feel like a lot of this season has been through Autumn's perspective, where I feel like she's always been kind of a central person. Like, we hear a lot about what's going on. Even if she's not always like in with the vote, we kind of get a sense of what's happening. Like, but I feel like I'm almost like I'm watching this through Autumn's eyes a lot of the time. So I feel like she's been like a pivotal person in a lot of just what's going on in the game, whether it be because she got screwed by a vote, like pre-merge, or just kind of maneuvering post-merge. I feel like she's gotten like the biggest like game character story, but I feel like that's at the same time, I don't think she's going to make it to the end. I think she's going to be that kind of unfortunate final three, final four, like post but no cigar person, where I feel like, I know that's at least with her, that's how I feel like her story's gonna end. Like, it's been a really great story, but like a really sad ending at the very end.
The robbed goddess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's at the top of my list, but I was really struggling between her and Jake. I even wrote down 51% Autumn, 49% Jake, because it was like that close in my mind. But yeah, I do think I like Autumn's story better than Jake's slightly. But also props to Alex too. Like, she was a little bit not seen in the beginning, but I think losing Brooke and Kelly back to back, like, she kind of woke up as a player, and I think it was actually nice to see that. And I think if she got to the end and really conveyed that to the jury, I think she'd have a good shot too. You know, just saying, like, I lost my two closest allies back to back, you know, at the beginning of the merge. Like, I needed to step up and, up my game. And I think she did that. I think she did pretty well post merge.
And to that point, actually, I mean, even losing Brooke, she knew it was going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't like, oh, I lost Brooke, now I need to wake up. It was, I lost Kelly,
True.
I need to wake up, and she knew she was going home. So yeah, I definitely like that point as well, Joe. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the power rankings in terms of like who would win if they're there, I think those are different than who's like controlling this final four the most. So I feel like I have like Autumn at the top of like probably winning against any person like in front of the jury. But I feel like as far as of these four, who's the safest, I'd probably say Jake and Alex, and maybe Steph or Autumn. One of those two are probably going to be the next to go. I could even see like, them pulling, Alex pulling in Steph and be like, hey, Autumn's going to win. You can't go in with her. Let's vote her out at 4. And then Alex and Jake vote out Steph maybe at the end. I don't know. I guess it doesn't make sense why they not do that. But I don't know. I feel like that the final 4, I think I went with like Jake being the person who I don't think is going to go at 4.
You don't think he's going to be voted out?
Yeah, and like I said, I think he's at the top of the pyramid if there is a pyramid right now.
Mm.
Do you guys think that this vote up and coming is based on what you've seen, for example? I think it's worth bringing up past votes and the dynamics that led to them. Let's say the Greg vote, for example. Autumn wanted to keep Greg, right? Stephanie wanted to keep Ryan because of just who they trusted at the time. Jake wanted to keep Ryan. Alex was kind of in the middle there. With the Ryan vote, you saw Steph wants to keep Ryan, Autumn wants to keep Ryan, Jake and Alex want to keep Allison at the time, and then get swung kind of in the direction of Ryan later on. The people who are like winning these votes up until this point, what does the final four look like as a result of that? Do you think it's 2v2? Do you think it's 3v1? Just based on who was the most instrumental in 7 and 6 and in 5.
I think that's kind of why I give the edge to Alex and a little even more so to Jake. I feel like those two have been the bigger drivers in what ultimately happens. So that if that continues, then Steph or Autumn will go next.
I think I misstated that, by the way. So it was Jake.
I kind of
yeah. Jake and Alex wanted Ryan out. Steph and Autumn wanted to keep Ryan, and then Ryan ends up going out. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Right. But so they control 6. And then as a result of 5, I guess Alex is on the outs there. But really, this 2 of Jake and Alex versus the 2 of Autumn and Stephanie, yeah, it's a good point. Is it 2v2? I don't know. Are Jake and Alex a pair the way that Autumn and Stephanie are? I don't know. I mean, I do. But.
It's where I don't think there was tight, but I think there's more reason for them to stick together than for Steph to stick with Autumn.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Jake or Alex can do a good enough job of splitting Steph from Autumn, I think that's their play. That's what they should do. They should try to like say, hey, like Autumn will beat you, or any of us for that matter. We need to vote her out now. Like sell Stephanie some fake final 2 deal. I mean, from either both or one of them, and I think that could potentially. If Steph is told you will not win against Autumn, then she probably has to go to Autumn in 4.
But they've been together they're roommates, you know, they've been together this whole time, and I just it's so hard. They were roommates. And like it's just I can imagine that being so hard for them to do. Like they've been together this whole time, and Autumn is a survivor magician and can make anything happen that she wants. So anyways, it's hard to see it.
It would be smart for Autumn to keep Steph, knowing that, I mean, Autumn said it, I think, in this last episode that like she doesn't think Steph would win. And Autumn had written down Steph's name at one point in case an idol was played. I forget what point it was at. So she was like willing to risk.
I think it was at 6. Because they talked about this last episode.
Yeah.
Steph's like, oh no, I get why you did that. I'm like, what?
Right. But like, Autumn was willing to risk it, where I feel like, I don't know. I don't think have we heard Steph even mention the possibility of getting rid of Autumn? No. Like, I don't think so. So it would be like Steph's blunder to not take Autumn out.
Okay, can we talk about that vote? Am I understanding this correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's one vote on Autumn, and so Autumn was putting a vote on Stephanie in case there was an idol played. So she's saying, oh, hey, I just put a vote on. Do I have this right? Like,
the vote was 3, ended up being 3-1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So she's saying, oh, hey, I just put the vote on you in case an idol was played. So she's saying, hey, I put a vote on you so that you would go home instead of me. Right? Like,
right.
Oh my gosh.
And Steph is like, no, I get why that was like that was a good move for you, but I'm like, yeah, but it would have voted you out of the game. Like that's not a good move for you.
Instead of Jake.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was huge.
It's like,
oh, it would have been harder to like reel Jake back in had you voted for him. And I'm like, well, the alternative is you being voted out of the game. It's like that would have been it for you. Like you shouldn't be like, okay with that move, because that move would have resulted in you being eliminated.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was like, wait, am I getting this correctly?
You're right.
And you know,
well, I could see like Steph telling Autumn that to her face, like, okay, that's a sell. But I mean, like, I don't think we ever got anything from Stephanie saying like, oh no, I wasn't pissed at all. I mean, I would love to hear like kind of what she would like, how that vote really was just kind of like, oh no, I get it, or if there was some serious like thoughts, like maybe I shouldn't be as close to Autumn as I think I am.
Well, and you see that in this episode. I think right when the episode starts, Steph kind of says like, she probably just did it because we're friends. I'm like gonna get over it. And then they talk in person, and she's like, yeah, it's no big deal. But yeah, good. I mean, she was far too forgiving, in my opinion, too. And I think for what it's worth, you can't be like, oh, yeah, I was so sure Ryan didn't have an idol. But like, if he did, I would have rather you gone than Jake. Why would you ever be okay with
I mean, the
you?
thing is, I mean, writing someone's name down is, I think the biggest proof that that person is willing to sacrifice you or let you go in the game. Like, I mean, like there's, you know, it's all like, you know, actions speak louder than words. I think as soon as someone votes for you, they are okay with you being out of the game. Whether they can, like, you know, be less okay with that being someone else, it's like, at one point you were okay with me leaving. So therefore, I should not be trusting of you in the slightest if I want to, like, stay in the game.
You know in Big Brother how Dan Giesling has the mist? Like, he's known for the mist. Like, I feel like Autumn has this mist. Like, Allison was like hook, line, and sinker. Like, oh yeah, Autumn's voting Stephanie. And Stephanie's like, oh yeah, go ahead and vote for me. It's fine. And she's just got them all under her spell. She's just...
And I think it's probably hard too for Steph to think, well, so even if I'm more pissed at Autumn, what's my move then to go try to work with Allison, Jake, and Alex? I mean, that's not really going to be. I'd rather like try to patch things up with Autumn than go to 3 people who maybe they didn't vote for me. I mean, Alex voted for a couple times, but like I guess more simply Jake and Allison. I mean, like, what have I really got with them that I can't forgive and patch things up with Autumn? Where I'm kind of just like I'm stuck having to work with her kind of. So like I might as well just try to let it go, even though it could have been my end there.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like Jake too could like use that. Like, let's say like Alex wins the Final Four immunity. If, you know, he could use that to Stephanie and be like, look, Autumn was willing to sacrifice you, which I'm assuming he knows that Autumn was the one that voted for her, right? By this point in that vote. So like he could go to Steph and be like, look, Autumn was willing to get rid of you. Like, let's team up and take her out. Plus she's a big threat. Like, I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, really, immunity is going to be huge.
Right.
I think
the next step, you know, the final. So
the only scenario where I could see this kind of a thing kind of panning out in a good way is if, let's say, it was at 5, and there's like 3-1-1 is the vote, and Autumn does it to protect herself, and that's it. Not to protect Jake, but to protect just herself. In this scenario, she had a choice, and I do think it's worth mentioning. I mean, Steph said it in the chat too. Like, look at what Alex did when Brooke wrote her name down. They were aligned, and she was like, forget about it. I'm going against Brooke. Really, no matter how close they were, it didn't matter. I think Stephanie did act in a little bit too nonchalant of a way to be like, oh, you voted for me? Like, whatever. It was to protect yourself. No, it wasn't. It was to protect Jake too. It really was. So, I don't know. Definitely worth it.
Right.
Cool. So, moving on from that, we have, I guess, we just keep jumping all over the place.
I know. I'm sorry.
So, we have this 4. I guess let's walk through. I have 4 different scenarios, and you guys can each tell me what you think happens. Final 4 immunity. Jake wins immunity. Who goes on?
I feel like they're going to be able to swing it to vote Autumn out. Also, if there's like the tie thing, maybe that'll finally break Steph to be like, I don't want to, you know, risk going home somehow if I vote for not Autumn here. But
yeah, I wouldn't want it to be Autumn, but I feel like that's the best move for everyone else.
And Hannah?
Yeah, I really think the Stephanie Autumn connection is super strong. So it comes down to whether they can get Stephanie to vote Autumn. And I think Jake's ready to get rid of Autumn. Alex will get rid of Autumn. It comes down to Steph.
So then now, do you think that in any scenario then that Autumn is going to be the one who goes at 4 unless she wins then? Is there any scenario that debunks that?
I feel like the argument for voting out Autumn is going to be the same to Steph. Even if Steph's immune and like can't go home at 4 in any scenario, I don't think that shouldn't give her enough security. Like, oh, I'll still take Autumn to final 3. Like, I think the argument is still going to be there. Don't vote for us, being Jake or Alex. Vote for Autumn, because if she just is one challenge away from making final 2, she's winning. So yeah, I feel like, I mean, again, like if they all play the way they should and what the jury's going to do, I think the only way Autumn should make it to 3 is if she wins Final Four immunity. But it depends on like if Steph can, if she's going to stick to that heart and kind of just go with Autumn and risk losing it, or if she's willing to kind of cut her for a better shot at winning.
Yeah, if
Greg,
Alex wins the Final Four, I think it would be harder for Steph to vote out Autumn. So that could be interesting. Like, obviously, Autumn's going to want to target Jake. So it would be interesting to see kind of like what you guys are saying. Like, what will it take for Steph to turn on Autumn or not at that point?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think there's any scenario, I'll present two different things, where Jake turns on Alex or Alex turns on Jake, or where the one scenario we haven't really touched on yet, we keep talking on Stephanie turning on Autumn. Do you think there's any scenario where Autumn turns on Stephanie?
If Autumn misted him. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You're first.
Oh, I was just saying if Autumn was able to mist Jake into doing whatever she wanted, you know.
I think Autumn has to know that her best chance of winning also is like, I mean, if Steph's going to take her and she can beat Steph, I don't think Autumn has any reason to vote out Stephanie. And even if like Jake and Alex are like, oh, we'll vote out Stephanie with you, as Autumn, I would be like, I think you guys are lying to me. I'm going to still stick with Stephanie. So I don't think Autumn can be convinced to vote out Stephanie.
Brian froze. He's really taking a lot of time to think about that.
I was like, wait for it.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, what's he about to say?
So he was saying.
Oh, is he frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally taking forever. Oh my god.
Catch up, Greg.
Can you hear us?
Hold on. I think he's messaging us trying to get back in. Anyways, so yeah, you guys can go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think. Sorry, was it any scenario for Autumn to vote out Steph? Is that what you're saying?
And then also the
Jake with Alex.
Jake and Alex.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that from what I was thinking, Jake's ideal move is hello.
Oh, that's an up. Really close.
Okay, so I feel like Jake's ideal scenario is to be in the final 3 with one from each pair. So he wants Autumn or Stephanie out. So if Autumn wins, he needs to get. I think he would get Stephanie out. Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, switch places now.
Never have internet problems ever, so that totally makes sense that I'd have it tonight.
No worries. Hey, you kept us on the edge of our seats. Really wanted to hear what you had to say. We're all
like, oh no.
Like, it was great timing.
Yeah. Where was it though? I think, what was I saying? Oh, I believe like Jake and Alex splitting, I think was what we were talking about. But yeah, I don't think either of them go into final 3 with the pair of Stephanie or Alex. Like I feel like those two, even if they maybe think they should vote each other out before final 2, like I think at final 4 they have to push for Autumn. And if Autumn's immune, they just have to try to get Autumn to vote out Steph somehow.
Right. But Greg, what would you do in a tie at final 4?
So last season, this was like 2 years ago. So in season 1, we did have that happen.
Okay.
And it was a trivia quiz. And now,
oh dear.
Now,
pay attention to details.
And I will say, like, we kind of did that with
how many fans were under the thing.
Yeah, well, straight up. Like I was gonna say, like that is what we did with
how many rocks were in the
right.
And I think that's kind of the direction we were going with that challenge. Was we wanted to do what we did in the final 4 tiebreaker. I will say, I don't like doing the same thing twice.
Oh.
Oh, you're an ass then. Cool.
Oh, Greg, your flair for drama. I love it.
And
rocks,
like
maybe
that pretty clear to people from the beginning, where I'm like, don't use the previous season's template as the template for this season. So like when people were like, oh, we're
but it's a challenge of some sort versus just being some like pass votes or rock draw.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna be a challenge if that's the case. Yes, that'll always be the case in at least like is, I mean, in STC, I believe that's always going to be the case. That's in the rule book. So, yeah, we won't do like passive votes or anything like they did in Survivor Africa. Like that won't. That's not. So yeah, I don't know. I think it could be 2-2, right? Like we have these two pairs, which is so funny because, I mean, let's break down one scenario I don't think we have touched on. What if Allison's here?
So Stephanie is out at that point?
Stephanie's out.
Yeah.
Stephanie's been idled out of the game. So now we have Alex, Jake, and Allison and Autumn. What happened?
Well, so Alex didn't vote for Allison, though. So I think that connection is still there.
Right. They would be the strongest pair, I guess.
And
so then I think it's more interesting. I think then maybe Jake is more willing to break up the Allison-Alex deal than just like go guns a-blazing toward Autumn.
Right.
And maybe Autumn feels the same. Like I think that's the situation where, and then like Alex and Allison, like they're kind of together, but they're not like glued. Well, I think that'd be a much more dynamic shifting final four than I think what we have right now. If Allison is there instead of Stephanie, because they're all they're all just equally people who could like win also. So it's like, there's no easy, you don't want to like keep the Stephanie because everyone's going to be a big jury threat potentially.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to see who Allison, like, cause obviously in that point, Jake and Autumn both voted for her. So it would be interesting to see what Allison would think. Like, okay, which one of these two, like, would she just forgive them both? Like real quick,
Probably.
Like before. And then,
like, I feel like the one person, like, Alex might not be wanting to vote out Jake in that situation in the final four, but I think everyone else is willing to vote out anybody depending on who can make the biggest case for it.
I think maybe that's a scenario we can touch on, like obviously because it didn't happen, but let's say Alex is there with Autumn and Jake, or Autumn, Jake, and Allison. Alex is there. Does she have any reason not to go to the final three then with both Allison and Jake? Because it would appear that they would both take her, correct?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I think in that scenario, no matter what, I think what happens at 5 was the right move for Alex, no matter what. Because for what it's worth, she's setting herself up, like she said, in the episode, for a final three of her, Jake, and Allison. Which obviously doesn't happen. But I think even though she's on the outs of a final 5 vote, like you got to understand why she did it. And it makes perfect sense. Yeah. All right, cool. So
was Alex truly not in the know there? I guess we won't find out till next episode. But I wondered, did Jake tip Alex off his voting for Allison, or that was a totally rogue move on his part?
I mean, it was. I think I was touching on this earlier, where they thought it was going to be 4-1, and the other 3, Autumn, Stephanie, and Jake, knew it's 2-2 with Jake in the middle, and Allison and Alex were like, "We've got it on lock. Everyone's voting Steph."
Okay.
So she is totally blindsided, and I think you'll. I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but you'll see that,
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting though to see Alex going into a Final Four situation where really no one has said out of any of you guys that she's the next to go, because she was the only one on the outs of this vote, but no one sees a scenario where she can go. It's either, it seems like, probably Autumn, Jake, or Steph. That's right.
The only way Alex goes is if Jake is immune and Stephanie does not budge on voting out Autumn. So then the tie force between Alex and Autumn.
Right.
And then Alex would lose a challenge. But that's the only way I could really see Alex
I
going
could see that happening too. I could see it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're kind of getting closer and closer to I guess, exhausting all the things that we really can talk about with the episode.
I have notes.
So I guess is there anything we haven't touched on, Hannah, that you want to bring up? Maybe.
Okay. First off,
everything.
Autumn's hair is amazing. I don't know if I like her personality more or her hair's personality.
I don't know if I like her personality, but her hair is great.
They're not one and the same. Part of the personality.
So yeah, so that was my first thought that I had to get out there, is Autumn just having gorgeous hair. I think that Ryan was a super underrated player. I guess he was one of the threats with Greg, the two going against each other. But I just feel like he was having some great, because you asked us like who our favorite like fall person who's voted out, and I just feel like Ryan was he was killing it. He was awesome. So definitely loved watching him play.
Yeah, Ryan, I think, is one that, and to clarify, like I asked you guys to come up with like your favorite fallen hero, basically. I think Ryan really was one of the people who was pivotal in getting Greg out, really made some of the moves essential to get Autumn's name even on the radar at Final Six. I know she doesn't go, but still.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to be roped in by Kelly. He's trying to be roped in by Brooke. People like Ryan. Right? He's this very attractive player in the same way Greg is, but Greg was obviously a little bit larger of a profile then because Ryan didn't have the pair. I think it's worth saying he played a very good game. I think Ryan really was a very under the radar player under the radar to the point of getting to 6 and then being the biggest threat. But you know what I mean? It was impressive.
Yeah.
Also, someone who like got so much more shit than she deserved was like Kelly. I don't feel like she was ever given a chance to like play the damn game because she dared like motion to look for an idol for like 2 seconds at the initial block. I'm just like, and that stuck the entire game.
Yeah.
I'm like, get over it, people.
I know, but that's what she did. I would have been the exact same way. I would have been like, nope. Like your first impressions are so important. Even though this game is like 500 days long, like it still lasts.
Yeah, someone could have sneezed on like the wrong way, and then they could have been targeted for 80 days. So it's like,
and I almost wonder if she was able, like, because like that thought of voting out Kelly was able to kind of like fester for so long. I wonder if that almost made it like a bigger snowball effect, where maybe had they gone to like the tribal council number 2, maybe it'd have been like, oh, well, we don't really trust her, but we're kind of like already working out some other plan here. So I wonder if she would have escaped the first vote early and then like kind of been able to like work her way back in, versus like having that thought there, like, oh, when we get the chance to vote out Kelly, we're going to do it. And that kind of was her undoing. I don't know. I thought really Kelly was really funny and
I know. I wish we could have seen more of her.
Well, it's funny. So Kelly in her intro video, she said like, "Oh, I'm from this area. Like, nobody would know where I'm from, like South Chicago. I grew up like 30 minutes from where."
No way.
Yeah. I was gonna say I wanted her to come to Survival Challenge because it wasn't that far from her. It's kind of funny. I know where she is from because it's the middle of nowhere, Illinois.
Yeah, like no, I know that city. Yeah, I grew up next to it.
And it's right near Bloomington, right? It's just like.
Well, no. So she grew up. I'm originally from this like tiny little town called Dwight, which is like population like 4,000, but it's like 30 minutes from where she grew up and everything. Yeah, she's like a little bit more north than where Bloomington was, but yeah.
So
small world.
Kelly was definitely a big a fallen hero, I guess, in that regard. Do you guys think there was anything she could have done to get out of 9? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think they're just like, I feel like they just did not want to hear her or give her the time of day at all. And I said, maybe there was like more stuff that we weren't seeing, that like she was shown as like sneaky or untrustworthy. I just feel like it was all of that. I mean, much again, I do agree that first impressions stick, but like, my God, I mean, like everyone is going to look for an idol at some point. Like, how dare the first person do it? I mean, yeah, it wasn't great for her to do like in front of everybody, basically, but like.
Well, okay.
It just frustrated me.
For those of us who haven't won Survivor, Ryan, when we look back and we look at our game, I feel like there's certain people that we look back on and we think, if I would have only made a better connection with that person, if I would have tried to make a stronger alliance with them, I would have gone further. And I feel like Kelly probably has several of those people that I think she wrote off Stephanie, or like that her and Stephanie were not, jiving, like she, like, I bet she looks back and she's like, if I would have just made a stronger connection with them, been willing to work with Stephanie, then I could have made it farther in this game. So I just think that I think, in my opinion, the game of Survivor is having as many connections as that you can to be as flexible as you can at any time. So That's my
That's a
opinion
great
on.
point. Plus, she had Brooke
Kelly.
and Alex so close with her too. So if it was just like this three, Kelly and her minions, they kept saying. So it was, the idol hunt from day zero, and then that. I guess.
I mean, she kind of gone like a similar rap to you, Hannah, in Survival Challenge, where it's like, I don't know, like, oh, Kelly's got to go. It's like, why? Like,
why
made Kelly this huge villain, like that everyone needs to vote out? I'm like, I don't get it.
Plus, even once Nick was gone, it was because I feel like he was driving that the most.
Right.
Like I was even almost surprised. I rewatched the Merge episode, and I was just like, and yeah, like the amount of times people said in their confessionals, like Kelly went to look for that idol a million years ago. It was just like,
how about like Nick having like a meeting with the other tribe like every other night? Like is that like on no one's radar, or like all these like cross tribal talks going on? Like, oh no, that girl for the idol at one time, so burn her at the stake. Like,
yeah,
it's so. I thought it was very poetic, like in real time too. We're watching this happen. We're like, all the people who wanted Kelly out. Simon goes before her. Nick goes before her.
That's
Nick
right.
on that conversation. Like all of them are.
That was a great string of booze. Yeah. Between Simon, Mitch, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, like, and yet still, Kelly went at 9. And I was like, oh my god! Like after all of that work and the whole big again, and Stephanie joins forces with Kelly to get up Nick, and it's just like, why did it still happen?
Remind me again what happened exactly at 9. What the girls were trying to pull one over on Stephanie? Was that who their target ended up being, or were they going for Greg?
Yeah, so they ended up going to Steph because Steph had pulled them in for the Nick vote, but then Kelly was like, well, I heard from Jake that Stephanie wants to go back to that 6, just minus Nick. So then she was like, well, I'm just going to go back to targeting Stephanie then rather than work with her, even though she helped me last vote. So it's like, it was just back to basics again, and it was just so weird to see because you're thinking, well, they just made this big move. Why do both of them just revert to I guess what's comfortable?
Right.
Plus, Greg and Ryan made that like fake 5-person alliance with them, which I rewatched that too, and I still don't understand what the point of that was. And
that's who they thought was going to vote together. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think to Hannah's point, I do think writing off Stephanie was one of Kelly's downfalls, but I also think Stephanie kind of wrote off Kelly. I think that it would have worked anyway, because at that vote, Kelly realizes Stephanie's not going to be with me, so I might as well just still go for her and roll the dice.
Right.
So I don't know. Joe, who was your fallen warrior? We've heard from Ryan with Kelly, and Hannah said Ryan. Who was yours?
I wrote a couple down. She's on my list. I have a list. Yeah. Well, I feel like first,
she was fine.
You just don't get to see them enough, so it's kind of like it would be interesting, had she made it further, like what she did. But I wrote down.
Don't say Mitch.
I have Spencer, Mitch, and Kelly. I have to stand all college survivor Mitches, so I have to throw Mitch's name in there.
What a character. I will never forget him texting everyone. Oh my gosh, Mitch.
He reminded me, like, from the second he was on screen, he reminded me way too much of Spencer Bledsoe to even be remote. I guess in that sense, I'm kind of people who say, like, people never give Kelly a chance. Like, Mitch was never going to be anyone I remotely rooted for on this thing.
He was in my top 5, though. Of probably.
Well, that makes sense because you always love the ones that I hate. So that I figured you were going to say Mitch. I was hoping you weren't. But did it for me, right, Joe?
But I had Kelly on there too, so give me some credit for that. Well, but I couldn't decide on one. But no, what's funny is not to spoil it, but there's another Mitch in another college survivor that does the exact same thing.
Oh, it was
texts the wrong group. So it was just that alone. I mean, I liked him going into it as well, but doing the same exact thing as another Mitch and another survivor, it was that was so bizarre to see a second time. So I was just like, this is crazy that this has happened 2 times to 2 Mitches. So
is Autumn the one who, when she's voting out Mitch, goes you suck at this game? Yeah. Is that that was?
Oh, she did say that.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was so funny. Mitch was just he was fun. He was strategic, but he just was kind of sloppy. And Jake says it too.
Okay, here's the thing about him. So the people like Spencer, on the TV show, I think they get so much credit because they're this all around guy that he's strategic, but like, yeah, but he plays sloppy. Just because you're playing a lot doesn't mean you're playing well. I think that's always my biggest gripe with people like that, where like they get this like sense where people kind of pick up like, oh, he's such a great player, he's really getting in there. But I'm like, just because like you're getting in there, but then like being an idiot when you're in those strategic conversations or making stupid moves, like you're not a good player. And then I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, he obviously got himself into like a decent hierarchy and position within his tribe, but
and people
I think it was
were
much more Greg's doing than it was Mitch's.
right, and people were aware of what he was doing. He wasn't keeping it on the down low. Same with Nick. You know, like they weren't being very sneaky with it. And with this game taking forever, you just got to keep your cards close.
Yeah, I think like especially I think even more so in this one. I think if you're too much of a big player, like just because really playing hard and making big moves, like I think can a lot of times be a mistake. Like you don't. Yeah, it's maybe more fun to kind of be driving the game a lot more, but like I think the smarter play is to play like a Stephanie or an Alex or like an Allison, even kind of like let the bigger dogs play really hard and play themselves out, because eventually they're going to play themselves out. I know you mentioned you didn't really like under the radar people, but I think there's something to be said about the game to it may not so much be under the radar, but like let other people make big stupid moves and then you kind of like clean up the mess and take it at home.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about some of the pre-mergers that go out in that way, where they're higher profile players. I think Survivor is very much a game of timing, and making yourself known at a bad time. You're not a bad player. You're playing a bad game, though. Like for what it's worth, like Mitch just came out too hot.
Wait, you say you're not a bad player, but you're playing a bad game?
I think like if you put Mitch back into this season 100 times, maybe 99 out of 100 times, he puts a vote on Ryan, and Ryan goes home after they do a revote, right? The one time they don't, he goes home. I think there's a lot to be said about like the game that these people were playing in this, like Spencer, one move too many. Did he just get antsy because what Hannah was saying? Like there's so many days in the game that like you're sitting on one plan for days at a time. Whereas in Real Survivor or in Survival Challenge or whatever it is, like it's you're go, 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 go. And I think like Spencer got too antsy, gets voted out at 4. Then you have Mitch that you just like, no way she has an idol. Doesn't put a vote on Ryan, pays the price. He goes home. Like there's a lot of little things that I don't think the people who went pre-merge are bad players. I don't think Nick can be faulted for winning a bunch of challenges pre-merge. I think he can be faulted for maybe not making the connections necessary and fixating on Kelly. I don't think he can be faulted for winning challenges pre-merge. Like if you play this game 100 times over, maybe he's in a better spot because he loses a challenge and he does establish trust with the Simons, the Stephanies, and like, I don't know. This game, yeah, it's interesting to break down.
So many scenarios.
Right.
Ever-ending scenarios.
That's why we love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've all broken them down, and I don't know.
I have something super random that I wanted to talk about of a moment that I loved from this episode. I wrote it down when it happened because it was just great. When Allison is talking to Jake and Alex. Allison, Jake, and Alex are in this hallway, and Allison says, "I'm just so glad we're all on the same board." And do you remember what I'm talking about? She goes, "I'm so glad we're all on the same board." And she goes, "On board." Okay, so because she was trying to say on the same page and on board at the same time. And I do that all the time. But then later in the episode, Alex is giving a confessional. And she goes, "Yeah, we're all on the same board." And I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to be saying that all the time now. I'm so glad we're all on the same board.
When I was editing, and I'm like, I wonder if anyone would see this. I wonder if anyone would notice. So thank you.
I did. I do that all the time. All the time. I do that. So I felt known.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
I've also enjoyed the music this season.
Oh my God.
So the music composer, whoever that is,
it's
love
so comical. Yeah,
I love it.
I think I heard Harry Potter this week.
Yes.
Like Avengers. There was
the Pink Panther theme song. That was a nice random throw in there.
I have a question that has to do with this. Greg, I have some questions for you. So
Yeah.
I don't have to ask
Ooh.
all of them, but
Please.
one of my questions, and Ryan, you and Joe can answer as well. But do you have like a favorite like moment that you paired up with a certain song, like a certain like soundtrack moment? Because like I said earlier, like when Greg's about to get voted out, and you have Imogen Heap, is that her name?
Thank you. I was gonna say, you said What You Say earlier. I'm like, no, that's Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, what you say? I just don't. So hide and seek playing while he's talking about like I might not make it through this vote, but even if I don't, I've been having a blast playing, and it's just like it's so emotional. So, do you have any other moments that you could think of that you paired a certain song with a certain moment or anything that sticks out to you?
I don't think I remember the moments, but I just remember I remember when the Avengers was playing, I was very excited about that. I was probably more excited about the music and not even paying attention what was going on.
Right,
I was like, wait,
right.
I know this. I was like, so that I think there was Harry Potter. I think there was a Disney song at some point. So I remember more
that one.
I
know I've heard like I think I like the Skyrim theme song or something from Skyrim in there too.
I think I said it was like there was a song that was like it reminded me of like walking through Frontierland in Disney. I think that's what it was. So I don't think it was an actual Disney song. It was like one of those songs you would hear.
And then like you're watching Survivor STC, and then you have to stop because you're like all of a sudden having this memory of like when you were in high school, and you're like having this like flashback, and you're like back to the game. Gosh, Greg.
Can you like work something random in, like Who Let the Dogs Out in season 3? Just like really just go.
That would actually be
on
brand for season 3.
Oh.
Okay.
That's so cool.
So I think like well, the moment that sticks out to me, Hannah, like I think I said it earlier, like that scene with Greg is actually probably one of my favorite in STC. Like
yeah, that was great
so far.
I loved it.
And I think a lot of that.
You should have used My Heart Will Go On. That'd have been like just icing on the cake for me there.
Well, it's like I get so much flack from like people from like Anders, for example, who like first of all hates the cheesy stuff that I do and I edit, but on top of that doesn't like players like Greg. Whereas with me, I loved when Greg was playing Survivor, because when Greg was playing Survivor, yeah, he's not overly expressive, and he says this in the confessional, but like I care about people who care about the game.
Yeah.
Who I want to stay in the game. So when he gives that confessional, I'm like, I need to make this a moment, because he never says shit like this. He really doesn't. And so when he does, I really wanted to make that into something. I think
too, it's like, go ahead.
No, please.
I think it was like, and Greg wasn't super high on my list of like who I was rooting for, let's say, but I think it was, I feel like it was almost like a way to, I forget how I said this before, but like, the perception of him in the game from the players was maybe different than some of the viewers. So I felt like it was kind of nice to kind of show, right, like how passionate he was. And like, I really liked it. Like I sort of became a Greg fan, sort of more in the merge. Not, you know,
in that moment.
Like, no, not in that moment. But like, I liked that moment because it was like,
I was saying right now because of that really
a little too late.
That little thing, he just like right, and then he got voted out. But no, I kind of liked it. I felt like it was kind of like you were sort of showing us maybe like, no, like Greg was like a good player and he was passionate about the game. Maybe it didn't come across to some of the viewers. I thought it was like almost like a reminder.
I'm not downplaying the passion of the game. There's a lot to take in there.
But I liked it. I liked that moment.
Speaking of cheesy moments, I also super loved when you edited the players at day 39 talking about how they love Survivor. I like super loved that. Yeah. And I was like, it was so precious because, you know, like I grew up watching Survivor. Like I think you guys did too, I guess. I don't know you, Joe, so probably absolutely. Did. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just like how I felt playing Survival Challenge. It's like you love the show and you always think like, oh, I'm not an idiot. I would play so much better than them and blah, blah, blah. And then you get in the moment and you're in the middle of it. And it was so cool. Them in the middle of the game talking about how they were so happy to be playing the game or something like that. It was cheesy, but it was awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
like that
they
too.
always do that every season, I think, and I think it's carried on to future seasons. I don't know if anyone's still around in the chat to verify that for me, but like, I made it I made sure there was always a day 39 confessional. I made sure that there was always your Survivor premiere confessional, because that for me like humanized the game.
Mhm.
Like these are real people on a college campus that like have other stuff going on, but like this is a big part of their life, and I think it brings in the conversation of like why they're there, and makes it so that like Greg's not a game bot to you anymore. Ryan has a little bit of a story as to why he loves Survivor. Like all these people bring in these little dimensions that maybe you just don't see, and I loved it. I love doing that, and I think the emotional confessionals to me are always hard to mix in. But those ones are good because it's a designated section where I do it. So I love it. It's going to be
Mhm.
3. Sam Tremblay in the chat says that it lived on for seasons down the road. So that's exciting.
Yay!
Yeah. I have a question. Did Allison end up becoming a fan of Survivor and watching the show after?
Same with
played?
Alex, because Alex wasn't a fan either beforehand.
I think, yeah, to my understanding, I think Allison watched a little bit. It's funny because like I think Greg and Allison. So should I even say? I don't know if I should spoil this yet. Should I spoil it yet, Sam and Zach?
Someone said something in the chat.
I think Zach did.
Okay.
What?
So
they signed a lease.
I mean, so
this is in the chat.
This is fun to know. Greg and Allison are dating.
Ooh.
Oh, I totally saw this coming. Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of cool. And
yeah.
It's interesting because I would have expected as a result of that maybe Allison would start watching more because Greg loved it. But Greg actually is like a religious Survivor watcher with his mom. So they watch together. He wouldn't even come to our watch parties because he was just watching with his mom. And he would wait to go watch with her. And he wouldn't come over my house when I would have everyone over. So it's like, I don't know if Allison started watching or not.
I am shipping this so hard right now.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh my gosh.
So go look on social media. If, like we tag them in all the posts, like their pictures all over the place together. They're dating, and it was like, yeah, kind of fun.
Do you think it was because they were so close in the game?
I've asked him.
Were they so close in the game because?
No, so he was waiting until after the game to do it. To my understanding, I've asked him like different scenarios of like, what if she went at like, I forget what votes, like at 3 when I think it was, whenever they voted for Allison, I forget what vote it was. Oh, the Simon vote. When they were like, oh, we'll vote 2 on Allison and the other the other 4 split it 2-2. I said, what if Autumn flips there and it goes 3-2-1? Are you dating her still, Greg? And he goes, yeah, 100%. So I think it was kind of from the very start. It was a thing.
I guess they both made the merge, so they're both dateable. So that worked out well.
So, Greg, will you officiate the wedding? Is my question.
Ooh.
And what music will you be playing?
Ooh.
Let's let that be in terms of somebody else.
Yeah, so that's a little exciting thing. I love to say it. So I think it's something that like I've never really been able to say until now because I don't want to spoil that they were together in the game, but it's not really that big of a deal if it gets spoiled.
Right.
Like it was a real life relationship that kind of stemmed out of this. So yeah, little fun fact there.
Can I ask another like super random question real quick?
Yeah.
Were you Homecoming King?
No.
Okay. What was that?
Way to rub it in.
The other Greg, right?
What? Like you were like on the court or something?
Yeah. So the week that
that's so cool.
What was that? The week of was that the Kelly vote? That was the Kelly vote.
Yeah.
It was homecoming weekend at Ohio State, and so they in the video they do say like we're about to watch Greg be crowned homecoming king. So I was on court, and I didn't get king.
So popular.
Court, yeah. So
I almost forgot this, but Hannah, do you remember where you were a year ago today?
Yes. Okay. So fun fact, everybody. Me and Ryan were at the Ohio State University 1 year ago, visiting Greg and walking around. And he was showing us all of the spots.
Literally, my first ever tour. I don't know if you've been there before, probably, but yeah, it was my first ever tour of the Ohio State University. So it's funny that like today landed when it did.
Yeah.
I wish like we could have seen the parking garage that you popped your head out of. during the merge.
Now that you've seen the season, it's like you're gonna walk around next time you come.
Well, okay. I was watching this season though. I don't remember a lot of really like places like in this season at least that I remember seeing on our tour. Like, when are you gonna work in that like weirdo sound wall?
I know the whisper wall thingy.
Whisper, whatever the hell it was. Yeah.
I need that in a challenge ASAP.
Yeah, I don't think it ever showed up in one of my seasons. Yeah,
That's a shame.
I don't know.
It's like my favorite thing about the whole campus.
To, like, do things on high traffic parts of campus, which would be all the things that you saw. Because there's a lot of people around. Yeah, so I don't know. There's like buildings that you would walk around and be like, "That's where that happened." Or
for people ever visiting, Greg is like by far the best tour guide I could probably pick out at Ohio State. Like you would think he like built the whole place.
He loves the Ohio State University.
I'm going back. Ugh.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks, baby.
Bucks.
Yeah. All right. Wait. I want to hear all. What were your other questions? Did you have any more? You had a whole.
Well, I mean, I don't want to take up too much time. Well, okay. Speaking of Allison and Alex not being fans, like, how did they end up signing up for this? Like, what does the casting process look like, and why? Why?
Pretty strong referral base. So I think.
Okay.
Allison was a friend of Allie Donahue, who was on season 1. In addition to that, Allie Donahue's sister, and so this is going way back, Allie Donahue's sister, Sydney, was on the founding exec board with me. So Sydney roped in Allie for season 1. Allie roped in Allison for season 2.
Okay.
And it kind of just, that's how all of them really work. So Alex is roommates with Sam Tremblay, who's
and they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates. So yeah, Alex was roommates with Tremblay, who was on the founding crew, and so that's how we rope in like a lot of our are just friends of friends who are like close to the org. And so the majority of applicants are not like, I love Survivor and I heard about you. No, it's my friend nagged me enough to do this.
Okay. Seemed like you had a lot of fans. Like, I don't know. Like, it just feels like Greg, Ryan, Jake, Autumn, like they're playing so hardcore, you know, like they know what they're doing. So yeah, it felt like they were applying out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think Greg was one of those that kind of applied out of nowhere, if I remember correctly. Ryan was like a recruit from other people. I think there's a lot of people who, I mean, I don't think many of my friends played. So I think it was mostly just Crew's friends. But there were a lot of people who were like, we heard about you from, I mean, once we published season 1, people were like, oh, we heard about you because we watched Maryland and we heard about you. Or because Will Wall was on the show. Or like, we got a little bit of stuff out of that. But like the first, like a lot of like the first season people like Tyler Allen, Vinny Bonta, like a lot of those guys were just, I love Survivor and I read an article about you or I saw you on Reddit.
Love it.
Yeah, so it really kind of depends. Yeah. Was there any others?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, I was gonna say I like those little like off-topic questions.
I know, right?
I wanted to go to bed, so I won't keep you much longer. But
I did want to. We should give a plug for Survival Challenge. Like I like watching your season of STC. It's like these people playing STC, they would have so much fun playing Survival Challenge, like with no food and over only 5 days of fast-paced Survivor, you know. So I just wanted to give a plug.
80-day variety better. Yeah. I can't imagine anyone liking that, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a couple recruits rolling in for next season 2. I have a couple people interested in applying. But for those of you who are watching tied to STC, I know I posted this link in a lot of those. And also just fans in general who love STC and you're watching, like, I think 100% apply for Survival Challenge. It's what brought me to Ryan. It's what brought me to Hannah. Like, it's an awesome experience if you love Survivor and you don't think you're like, I mean, I'm never going to be on the show personally. I know Ryan thinks that one day he will be, and I think one day he will be too. I think Hannah has a good shot. I don't think I'm remotely interesting enough to do that. So if you want to play Survivor, Survival Challenge is like the next best thing. I know.
I'll be applying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, did we just get you now, or are you planning on it for a while? I don't know.
Applications.
This will be my third time. Excuse me.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. No, it'll be my third time applying. But yes, I'm applying again.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
I think that'd be super cool thing if you're interested in that. I know we actually had 2 people this past season too. One of the girls from the exec board, Sam, and then one of the players from season 3, which you'll see in God knows how many years down the road.
2025.
Yeah, whenever out, if it ever does. But Rachel Karen from season 3 was on Survival Challenge. So yeah.
And both played amazingly well. So that's like an Ohio thing. Definitely give us more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right, Greg. The Ohioans, we do great at Survival Challenge.
We do great, except when we.
I think technically 3 winners have been from Illinois. So just saying.
Home field advantage, whatever.
So yeah,
we don't want to name. Thank you very much, Greg.
Applications are in like January, right? And then it films in, or it films.
We do film.
Filming. Yeah, we do film. Hey, I was on the film crew, so it plays in the summer. So come join us.
We're getting way off track.
And just follow Survival Challenge on Facebook. That's where most of our stuff is.
And I need to do a plug too. I'm sorry, because my Survivor Buffalo people will kill me if I don't say anything. But I did play my first LRG in August. It was very fun. It was Survivor Buffalo season 2. It's just a 2-day one, but it was very fun. I won't say how I did, but honestly, there's Survival Challenge was definitely the first one I heard of, and it's so crazy how many different games there are around the country. When I first found the College Survivor world, I really didn't know about any of these other ones. So I was like, oh, I wish I was still in college and I would have loved to have started one or played one back then. But there's a lot around the country, which is really cool. So just Google it. There's groups and stuff. Just check it out. It's honestly if you like the show and you like the game, give it a try. It's
yes.
Well, and the best thing too is just walking away with a bunch of new Survivor nerd friends that you didn't have in your life before. I mean, what would my life be without Hannah? What would Greg's sadness or life be without me? So
Survivor brings people together all over the place.
Yeah, it really does. And on that note, I think it's also worth mentioning. I see Mr. George Jane joined the chat. I don't know if he's still here.
George.
Totally worth also mentioning there's other ones that are following us up. I mean, for all I know, by the time the finale might come out, they might be done too. But Survivor Michigan just premiered last week. Definitely recommend watching Survivor Michigan. We just tweeted them out. The link to the first episode. It's real. The first season was incredible. And they have a whole new crew stepping in.
You'll probably see Joe on a podcast soon.
Yeah, I'll probably be on one. It's I love Survivor Michigan. There is no ill will towards in Survivor.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah,
it's very good.
But yeah, I don't know. This is a cool world that really brings people together. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Anyways, we've almost been going for 2 hours, and there's one question I haven't even got to that is game related. Sorry, we're gonna backtrack.
That's okay.
Who's winning?
Autumn. I want Jake to win, but I feel like Autumn's winning.
Okay. Joe?
I'm going to say Autumn as well. She was, like I said, it was 51-49% in my brain, so I'm going to go with Autumn.
It's not Autumn. I don't know. I feel like it's not Autumn. I don't think it's Steph. I want to say Jake, but it could be Alex. It's Jake or Alex.
Okay. And we've kind of broken down reasons for why and everything before, so we don't need to go into that. But I will say the finale's fun.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still working on it. I was working on it before we got onto this.
What?
Podcast.
It's not out next week?
So let's talk about that. For those of you who even made it this far in the podcast, we're going on a scheduled 2-week break. This was expected from the beginning. It might go longer than that. Have
you filmed the finale at least?
Gotta call everyone back.
It's 2 years later, they're still just waiting on that next challenge. You're busy, guys.
So I'm working on the finale now. I don't anticipate having it done in time. That being said, I'm trying to get it out. The plan was 2 weeks. If I can get it 3 weeks from now, that's great. It's a month, whatever. Now, this is going to sound harsh. I don't care when I release it. It comes out when it comes out. You'll watch it if you want to watch it. Great. Enjoy.
You're like reaming us out. Like,
if you're like 2 hours into an STC podcast, I'm pretty sure you're going to watch it when it comes out. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
At least us three will watch
there.
Yeah.
We have like 3 views on YouTube.
There's 12 people in this room watching right now, and for those 12 people, half of which are from STC anyway, who will watch no matter what, just be patient with me. I have a life, and I need to get this done. I understand, but it's hard because I want to make it right. So we're working on it right now. The anticipated release was whatever that Monday was, September 15th, I think, 16th, was the anticipated release. I don't think that's going to happen. If it does, we'll have a podcast afterwards, post-finale podcast, and then that'll be it. That's all for season 2. Either way, that's all it's going to be for season 2. Once the finale hits, podcast done, and then I go to hibernate while I edit season 3. Odds are you'll see season 4 and 5 before that, because that's not me, and someone else is doing that. So that's what's to come with STC. I don't have a timeline with when we're releasing the finale. Sorry, but
that's okay.
Yeah,
Greg, I love your editing so much. Like I just feel like you tell the story really well. So you do whatever you need to get your creative juices flowing.
No, I will. I'll be working on it. I'll make it right. And I'm looking forward to finally showing you guys what happens, seeing if these winner picks actually pan out for you guys. So
I am going to send you some soundtrack requests. So expect that tomorrow.
Please do. Yes. Also,
it's just the entire soundtrack of like Mamma Mia or something stupid like that.
Oh my God.
Whatever. Send me the weirdest, wackiest shit that you have, and I'll throw it in. That for season 3.
Okay, that's for the record. You asked, so that's you're the one that asked for that. So
I think it's worth saying one more thing on my end. For those of you who are watching, maybe in the Ohio State community, I know that season 7 applications for Survivor Time and Change are currently open. Highly recommend you applying, because what you've seen on YouTube and what you saw in season 1, and what maybe you're wandering around campus one day and you see a bunch of people in a challenge and you're like, what the hell is that? Well, you can be a part of it. The applications are still open, and I would highly recommend that you apply, have the experience that all these people did. It's incredible.
Are you ever going to open up to have like adults apply?
Right? I'm just an hour away.
I think the 3 of us would like to play.
I mean, I don't know.
I'll quit my job to play for 100
There you go.
days.
See, Joe, that's a story right there. The guy quit his job to go play Survivor Time and Change.
And I'm from Penn State. Like I'd get like excommunicated from the Alumni Association, but I would still do it.
But he would do it.
That's how much I love Survivor.
That's dedication right there. Like, cast Joe immediately.
Do you want to wait? Oh, that would be opening a can of worms. We almost did Survivor Ohio State versus Michigan, by the way. And that was supposed to be live last weekend, but the Michigan Wolverines, I will throw some shade real quick on this. They backed out because they were like, oh, too many of our players want to go to the first football game against Middle Tennessee State.
That's no excuse.
Excuse me?
I'm going to be
I didn't know that existed until like 4 months ago. So
I was like, okay.
I'm upset.
So Penn State can, honestly, if they make a Survivor, we'll partner with them, because apparently Michigan didn't want to do it for us.
I will reach out to people and get it started.
That's
crazy.
Yeah, it would have been so much fun. Me and George were so excited, and then it died very quickly.
No one was into it?
We had a lot of interest, and then a lot of interest on our end too, especially. Almost half of the season 2 cast was like, yes, sign me up. But
I am livid.
Can we change the weekend?
I am livid.
Sorry, George.
I will say some of the College Survivor fans are hoping for like a fans versus favorites. So maybe if that you would definitely get a lot of fans for that.
Yeah, that's true. Or at least more from like the Maryland and Michigan end of things. I realize we have like half the subscribers that Survivor Michigan do. So, hey, if you have friends, guide them to us. I don't really care about the popularity of the show, but it's kind of cool to have a lot of followers. So, yeah, go ahead and suggest this to your friends if you've enjoyed it so far. I don't know. Anyways, I've been talking for a while. You guys have been talking for a while. I don't have anything else. But with that said, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching up until this point. I hope you enjoy the finale. Buckle up.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg.
I think I'll give you, if you guys have one last thing to say, you can pitch whatever you have and where you are now. I don't care. Or you can just say goodbye, whatever you want to do.
I just want to once again reiterate how much I love Jake. Jake Miller, you are everything. I would watch you for hours. Talk about Survivor, talk about cottage cheese. I don't care. You are hysterical. Thank you for your content that you brought to Survivor STC.
Ooh, that's hard to follow up with. No, I'll just say, Greg, thank you for having me on. This was awesome. Hannah, was great meeting you. Ryan, I see you a lot, but it was fun doing this with you. But no, no, I'm obviously like a big college Survivor fan, so I'm really like happy that so many colleges have done this, and I think it just gives a lot more content to the Survivor fans out there. So thank you to everyone that does this. And Greg, this season has been awesome. So looking forward to seeing how it ends.
Yeah, no, Greg, I can do like tons of shit all the time, but no, you do like a really great job, and you know it really is a big contribution to the Survivor community at large. So thank you for all that you do, and I'm glad that Austin threw this my way, and I found this and found you. So thanks for everything.
Don't make me cry, Ryan.
That's what I do.
Cue Ryan and Greg montage.
No, we're not.
Well, thank you for coming on, guys. I'm really glad we got to talk STC. I can't wait for you to find out how it ends. And yeah, cool. Have a great night, everybody. But don't actually go. I'm just going to turn off the podcast.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in.
We're still going, aren't we?